Vito Bratta's tasteful tapping and fresh phrasing on Wait by White Lion made it one of my favorite guitar solos of the hair metal era. Today we're going to break it down lick by lick and show you how it's done. Hey kids, and welcome to this week's supersized installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. I've always thought that Vito Bratta from White Lion is one of the most underrated players of the whole kind of hair metal era. He did some really cool inventive stuff with tapping, had a really unique tone and cool phrasing. White Lion's song Wait was probably the biggest hit that they had back in their heyday, and the solo in it features a little bit of everything that you need to know about Vito's playing. It's pretty much all tapped, it's got some cool sliding and harmonics, all kinds of good stuff in it. But before we get into it, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. Don't forget to get the free tab on my Instagram page, then upload a video of yourself playing along with this, along with the hashtag Weekend Wankshop. Okay, this solo is in the neighborhood of A. It's in standard tuning, and it has a ton of tapping in it. If you've never messed with some tapping stuff, like if you've never touched any Van Halen or anything like that, I don't suggest that you start here. This is a really tough one to play if you're not familiar with some of those tapping techniques. You'll probably find a lot of these licks are actually easier to play up to speed because whenever you're playing this stuff slow, there's just no sustain whenever you're doing like 90% tapping like this, so bear with me. So the first lick we're going to do here starts off by playing the 2nd fret on the G string, then tapping the 14th fret G, that's the same note just up 1 octave, and then bending that note a whole step. So notice that the bend came from the left hand, the bend didn't come from the right hand over here. At that angle, you just don't really have as much power and grip to like try to bend the strings with the right hand. That's not really the approach you want to take. You want to bend with the left hand. After that, slide the G up to fret number 21. So you had your 2nd fret, your tap on to 14, your bend, and your slide up to 21. You'll notice that throughout this I'm holding the pick between my thumb and first finger and doing all the tapping with my middle, but you could cross that up, hold the pick between your thumb and middle, do all the tapping with your first finger. It's up to you, but I like this grip. Okay, so after you slide up to 21, you're going to pull off to the open G, hammer on 6, hammer on 9, tap 14, pull off to 9, pull off to 6, pull off to open. Kind of an A7 arpeggio. After this, you're going to tap the 12 on the G and bend it up a whole step using the left hand at fret 9. It's really important that you do the bend from fret number 9. You'll see why in a second. Because then you pull off to that 9th fret that you're still bending. Okay, so let me back that up. I tap 12, bent up a step, pulled off to my string that's still bent. This solo is really nutty. It's got a lot of stuff like that in there. So after you play, and you still have this string bent, you're going to tap 19 and let the bend down. So again, I'm grabbing the 19th fret G here and letting that bend down. Tap, let down. So after you let that 19th fret whole step bend down, you're going to pull off to 9, pull off to 7, hammer 9 back on, and do 2 half-step bends. So that phrase sounded like. So coming off of that 2nd half-step bend on the G that you're doing, here's what you're going to do. Tap 13, let it off to 9, let the bend down, pull off to 7, hammer on 10, tap 12, let off to 10, let off to 7, slide down to 6, and do a little half step bend before you then just hammer on from nowhere the 7th fret D string. Holy crap, that is a lot of stuff, and it happens super fast too. Let's recap that because there's so much going on in that lick. So I got a 2 half step 9th fret G string bends, tapping 13, letting off to 9, letting the bend down, 7, 10, 12, 10, 7, sliding to 6, half step bend, hammering onto the 7th fret D string. Woo! And then thank God, one that's a little bit easier. 10th fret B string, whole step bend. And then as you're letting it down, what you're going to do is using your tapping finger, lightly touch the B string at fret number 22. So again, it's the octave above where the left hand is. The left hand is on A, which is fret 10. Your tapping finger up here is going to touch fret number 22, which is A, just in the next octave up. So here's how it went again. Your 10th fret B, whole step bend. As it's letting down, I just let the tapping finger graze that string at fret number 22, right above the fret wire. Don't be off axis. It's got to be right above the wire. And you got to be really gentle too. If your finger is on there too hard, you'll just choke it. You got to be real gentle. So what you're going to do here is to bend the 14th fret B string a half step, let it down, then bend it up a half step and hold it. So the second bend just stays at the top, and that's when we start doing the tapping over here. So tap 21, pull back off. Tap 18, pull off. 20, pull off. 16, pull off. Let the bend down, pull off to 12, hammer on to 14, pull off to 12, slide to 10. So that's like that. Now the way I remember where the tapping goes up here, it's kind of dumb, but to me what I remember is that I start off by tapping on one of the fret dots, which is 21. Then I tap on in between the dots, you know, because the 18 here doesn't have a dot, the 20 doesn't have a dot, the 16 doesn't have a dot. So I kind of look at it as start on a dot and then play the in between. It's kind of dumb, but it works. Dot, in between, in between, in between. Hey. So on a couple of those too, it sounds like as he's doing the tap, the left hand does a little vibrato, especially the first one. Because kind of like how we talked about with the bends, the left hand is the one that's in control of that stuff. Don't try to do vibrato with this hand. It just ends up being really weak. Hold the note firmly with the right hand. Do the vibrato with the left hand. That was a juicy one. So next looks really cool. Here's how you're going to play it. I've got my fingers kind of locked into the 12th and 14th positions with the left hand on the B string here, and my tapping is going to be happening on the 15th fret B string. What you're going to do first is to tap on 15 and pull off to 14 twice in a row. Just like that. After that, pull off to your 12. Then you're going to tap the 15 again and immediately follow that up with a 14th fret half step bend. Okay, let's back that up here. I got my 15 to 14, 15, 14. Pull off to 12. Tap 15, pull off to 14, and immediately do a half step bend. Like that. That bend happens immediately after that pull off. So after that half step bend, you're going to play this phrase. Tap 15, pull off to 12, hammer on 14, pull off 12, slide to 8. So those notes go by really fast. After this, you're going to play that first phrase of this section again. That's the 2 taps on 15, pulling off to 14, pulling off to 12, and then your quick, 15, pull to 14, half step bend thing. That's it. This next phrase is brutal. Your first phrase is this. That's tapping on the 9th fret A, pulling off to open, hammer on onto 5, tap 9, pull off to 5. 9, open 5, 9, 5. That's followed with this. I move to the D string now. I tapped 12, pull to open, and then hammered on 7. So now you got... Next lick is kind of up for debate because if you watch live videos of Vito playing it, it doesn't sound like this. But I think what you hear on the record is the result of a nice happy accident. Kind of like that Kirk Hammett Master of Puppets lick we talked about where he pulls the string off the board and it kind of makes that squawk noise that sounds cool, but it's also kind of impossible to replicate. I think it's kind of like that. So what you're doing here is you're tapping on the G string 14, pulling off to 7, hammering on 9, and then here's the fluke. It's a tapped harmonic at fret number 14 of that G string. Now what I mean here is we're going to still be holding down the 9th fret on the G over here, and then using your tapping finger, you've got to very delicately just sort of peck right on top of that 14th fret G string to sound out a tapped harmonic like that. What's up, bird? Again, I'm not tapping it on 14 like you did at first. It's not that. It just has to be a quick little jab at that 14th fret G, like that. And then I really like this next phrase here. I'm on the B string here, I'm tapping on 15, pulling off to 8, and then hammering on 10. Then you play that again, 15, 8, 10. And then while you still hold down the 10 over here, what we're going to do is tap 17, pull off to 10, tap 15, pull off to 10, tap 14, pull off to 10, pull off to 8. So that's going to go 17, 15, 14, just like that. That whole section is really hard to pull off cleanly. And the last section of the solo is this picking thing. Now I see sometimes people will play this tapped, like that. But I can tell you for sure that's not how it's done. You can watch live videos of Vito playing it, and he's clearly here in this 14th position and using his pick. So this lick is a little repeating thing that starts off on the 15th fret B, then 14th fret B, 16 G, 14 G, all alternate pick, down, up, play it a second time, play it a third time. And after that third time, you're just going to play the first 3 notes. So 15, 14, and 16 on the G. So that's 1, 2, 3, and the first 3 notes. After this, what we're going to do is change the lick up a little bit. Exchange the 15th fret B's, the D notes, for 17th fret B's, E notes. So we're going to play 17 and 14 on the B now, then 16, 14 on the G, just like you did. He plays this 4 times? Yeah, so that whole section will be 1, 2, 3, and the short one. 1, 2, 3, 4. This last phrase here is going to have these 3 notes 5 times in a row, and I'll show you 2 different ways to play it because it can be challenging because of the speed. You're going to play the 17th high E, 15th B, and 14th G, just like that. Don't let those notes bleed into each other like a chord. You want it to sound really articulate, really one note at a time, and very clean. Now, it's 5 times in a row through those notes, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from what I've seen, it looks like Vito is probably playing that with 2 ups and a down. Up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up, down. The downstroke at the end ensures that your pick is then darting back towards that high E string and ready to restart the sequence. That's the way he plays it. Now, you might have seen in the intro, that's not the way that I play it. Whenever I'm playing 3-string kind of repeating licks like that, a lot of times I like to utilize my middle finger here for some hybrid picking. That's not the way that he does it, but that's the way I like to do these kinds of licks. I'll play it like this. I'll do the high E string with my middle finger, I'll do the B string with an upstroke, and I'll do the G string with a downstroke. Just like that. Hybrid up, down, hybrid up, down. I can play those kinds of phrases articulately because the pick isn't having to dart around too much, you know? It's just kind of staying there right around the B and G string. So, yeah, either way you want. So you can go up, up, down, or use my method and go hybrid up, down. And the last thing that he does in the solo is to play the 21st fret high E string here with a half step bend, let it down, bend it up, let it down. And then he kind of slides off it like that. And that is it. Like I said, this is a super challenging solo to play. The phrasing on it is really, really weird. So let's have another go at it slowly. Before we wrap up, I want to give you guys one more really important piece of advice when it comes to all the tapping throughout this solo. If you don't have the bottom strings of the guitar properly muted using the butt of the right hand over here and even the first finger of the left hand in some cases, it's going to sound like a mess. Like if I try to play even those first couple of licks without any real muting going on, hear all that? That's just the low strings of the guitar ringing out sympathetically because they're not muted. Whenever I'm playing those licks, the low strings are completely choked out back here. You can even kind of press in on them a little bit and you won't hear it. It won't really make that much noise because it's going to be drowned out by all the notes that you're playing up here. They're going to cut through a lot more than a little, you know, mashing and muting on those bottom strings goes. So be sure as you're playing those licks, whenever possible, use the butt of this hand and just grind it into those low strings, especially the E, A, and D strings, because we barely use those other than, you know, those licks. You don't really use the low strings much at all. So be sure to use the butt of the hand as much as you can to keep them quiet. I wish you guys luck with that one. That's a really hard solo to play. There's just not a lot of dudes who do stuff like that with all this, you know, bending and then tapping and unbending and then pulling off and then all that jazz. It's a really crazy solo. Vito is just a really one-of-a-kind player, really underappreciated dude. If you want to hear some really terrifying stuff too, check out his solo on the song Little Fighter. That thing is a beast. I actually learned it years ago, but I kind of need to relearn it and maybe do a lesson on that if you guys would like to see it. I highly suggest listening to this solo over and over and over and over and over and again before you start trying to get your fingers around the licks and stuff. It's really unique. It doesn't really feel like anybody else's solos, so try to get it really internalized here before you start trying to make it happen here. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Eller Guitars. I'd also like for you to go over to Facebook and check out my new Facebook fan page, which you can find on facebook.com/Uncle Ben Eller. Also, if you'd like to book some one-on-one Skype lessons with me sometime, be sure to drop me an email, benellerguitars@gmail.com. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for another sick lick next time. Cheers, guys.